शराब विच पी लावा तेनू कोल के यारां ने जश्न मनाउणा भंगड़े विच भड़कू पाउणा यारां ने जश्न मनाउणा भंगड़े विच भड़कू पाउणा Britains got Bhangra sing everybody pal Bhangra sing oh oh pal Bhangra sing everybody oh oh
I'm Anila Dhami and today I'm interviewing renowned Bhangra artist, winner of the Outstanding Achievement Award presented at the UK Amas and lead star of Britains Got Bhangra musical, Shin DCS. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
So let's start with a bit of background. You've been in the music industry for over 20 years now. How did it all begin?
How did it all begin? Well, I've always been fond of singing, yeah, and as far back as I know, when I was a little baby, right, my dad was a big film fan.
Yeah.
And back in the day, there used to be cinema halls, right? Asian families used to go to cinemas and stuff and watch films. So obviously, he used to take us along with him to watch films. And I remember watching the early Bollywood films and listening to a lot of the music from those films. And my dad used to bring home the records and stuff back in the day, and we played records in the house as well. So there's always music being played in the house, yeah. And I was listening to music all the time, and I used to hum those songs. Even as a little boy, and I remember I used to really enjoy watching the films and singing the songs as well. So I picked it up like that, really.
Yeah. That's
where I originally started singing. I must have been about, what, 4, 5, 6?
Okay.
And I have early memories of singing along with these songs, or trying to sing with these songs, basically. And it just came, and everything just progressed from there. I started going to school and stuff, started listening to a lot of English music, still listening to a lot of Punjabi stuff as well. And it all kind of came together when I was finishing school. And DCS was formed back in those days, yeah.
And who did you kind of used to listen to when you were young?
Okay, I used to listen to Mohammed Rafi a lot, right? Who was a film singer back in the day. Apart from him, I used to listen to a lot of Jackson 5 back in the day, the Beatles, Stones, because I'm from that era. A lot of Duran Duran, Elton John, people like that. That's kind of my era that I grew up with, yeah. James Brown, a lot of R&B stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a healthy mix of dance, Bollywood, and Punjabi music. In Punjabi, I used to listen a lot to Manik and Gurdas, yeah, and Chapkila. So those are people that I really grew up with, and they kind of were big stars when we were starting out. So they influenced the way I made music a lot.
And from such a prominent music career, you've gone into this phenomenon of Britains Got Bhangra. So how did you get into the acting side of things? Okay,
well, before DCS took over my life, yeah, I actually dabbled in amateur dramatics in Birmingham, and I was involved with the old rep, and I was taken on to do an apprenticeship there.
Okay.
And I was involved also with an Asian amateur dramatic society, and we did a few plays locally around the area. But while I was working at the rep, DCS happened for me, right? I got involved with a band, and it took over my life for the next 25 years or so, right? And I didn't get a chance to do anything else. And then out of the blue, a couple of years ago, I got a phone call from a guy called Sumit Chopra, who is the music director for this musical, Britains Got Bhangra. And he asked me if I'd like to audition for to play the role of Twinkle Singh in a musical.
Yeah.
And I jumped at the opportunity, really, because I knew this would give me an opportunity to act again. Because I've been watching films since I was a little baby.
Yeah.
I've always been fond of films, and I'm always fond of watching good films, watching actors, seeing how they work, seeing how they use their craft. So, you know, this was a great opportunity for me to get involved in. So I jumped at the opportunity. I went down to London, did an audition for Rifco Arts, met Pravesh, the director, and they liked what I was doing. And they offered me the role, and I jumped at it, yeah.
And can you tell us a bit about your role, because you do play the lead character, Twinkle?
Well, I play a character called Twinkle Singh, who comes from India, right, and to this country. He's married in India, comes over here, and through a lot of different scenarios and stuff, which I'm not going to go into, he becomes a big Bhangra star.
Yeah.
Right, and he's living it up and having a great time, and then his career, through some bad decisions in his life and other scenarios, his career takes a nosedive and he hits rock bottom, right? But it all ends on a very happy note, you know, and it's got a lot of Bollywood in there, and there's a lot of singing in there. It covers a lot of different musical genres, from Bhangra to Bollywood to R&B to hip hop, There's a lot of different stuff that goes on in there. So it's a really well-written story. It's a really, really good piece, and it's a really well-produced piece.
And the musical's got so many different energetic dance routines, and you're kind of singing with all the other actors and actresses. How did you find that? Did you find it challenging, and what was your typical day in rehearsals?
Yeah, rehearsal days used to be really long, and it was a challenge for me, right? Because with DCS, nobody tells me what to do, right?
Yeah.
I walk on stage and I sing whichever song I want to sing, right? And I sing it the way I want to sing it, right? And I stand where I want to stand, and I do what I want to do, right? But obviously with this, right, I'm working with a team of 12 other people who are going to be performing with me on stage. So I had to learn dance routines, which I'd never learned a dance routine in my life, right? Would you believe? And I had to learn all new songs, and it's quite crazy backstage in a musical because there's a lot of stuff that you punters won't see. Right, it all looks very good on stage, but backstage it's mayhem, right? Because sometimes we've got like 10 to 15 seconds to do a costume change, right? So you walk off nice and calm off the stage, and you run, you panic, you throw your shirt, and your trousers go off in another direction, and someone's helping you to dress, and you get dressed quickly, and you run back on stage, right? So it's quite crazy backstage, right? But it's great fun, because it kind of switched me on again, artistically, because having done DCS for 25 years, I was getting to a point where I was just banging my head against a wall and becoming quite stale, I felt, right? And I needed something to challenge me again, physically, artistically, mentally, and this did it for me. It kind of switched me on in every way, because I had to be when you're on stage in a musical, you have to be fully alert, right? You can't drift anywhere at all. You've got to know I've got to walk on stage and know where I must be standing so I hit my light. I have to know what my dialogues are. If I'm singing, I've got to know where I'm going to be singing from, what my cue is, because the music is all live as well, right? And everything's it's all written down, so we can't change anything whatsoever. So yeah, it's very tight, and it's very well rehearsed, and there's a lot of stuff that you have to be aware of when you go in, So you can't just go on with a half-hearted attitude. You've got to be fully alert, 100%.
And how long did it take you to learn all of your lines and everything?
We had a 5-week rehearsal for this.
It's very intense.
Yeah, and there were long days. There were like 8 to 10 hour days of just rehearsing, learning our songs, rehearsing our pieces with the cast and stuff, going through all the scenes. So yeah, it was very intense, and physically it's very draining and very taxing as well. So yeah, it was very intense indeed.
And the musical covers quite a lot of controversial topics, and one of them is kind of its representation of the music industry as being very competitive and kind of talent becoming old talent very quickly. How much do you think it's a true representation of the music industry?
It's quite a true representation, actually. I mean, when we started DCS, we started around the mid-1985, right? And there wasn't that much competition around. It was just bands, and there was probably about 10 bands around in those days, right? And we were all making good music at that time. So the Bhangra scene was very healthy and very thriving. We used to gig every weekend. We'd be out on the road playing all the time. That's what I've been doing for the last 25 years. I've been constantly touring in a van up and down the country, around Europe, like Twinkle, basically. It's like Twinkle. The musical is really very close to real life. Which is what I'm explaining to you. The competition was there, but the careers were quite long at that time. We like DCS have got a 25-year career, and we're still going strong, and so our careers are still going on. But obviously, with DJs coming in, the live scene has taken a downturn. So in that respect, it also shows that in the musical as well, that DJs have come on and they've kind of taken over quite a bit with the musical scene, and there's changing trends in music. Before it was just pure Bhangra music, and then a lot of influences come into DCS introduced a lot of musical influences into Bhangra, like reggae music we introduced, pop and rock music we introduced back in the day, and now you've got DJs doing it all with hip hop and R&B as well, and drum and bass and whatever the thing with Bhangra is it mixes with anything. As long as you can dance to it, Bhangra will mix with it, and that's why Bhangra has kept going for over 25 years or so, and still been at the top of its game. It's still as popular as it was 25 years ago today.
And while I was sitting in the audience, I saw that there were a lot of non-Asians as well. What do you think, what element of the musical do you think made it kind of universally appealing to everyone?
Well, I think obviously the main factor is that 80% of the musical is in English, right? So everybody can understand it here, and it crosses over really well. You know, I found that the white audiences totally got the play. They totally got the storyline, and they, even though they can't understand the lyrics, they can feel the energy coming from the music. And you know, Bhangra is very infectious, and it's so colourful. I mean, the opening number, I can't remember what the name is now, right? But the opening number is very, very colourful. It's set back in the Punjab, and you've got all the colourful costumes. It's in the fields. Everyone's dancing around doing traditional Bhangra movements, and it's very energetic, and it's very colourful, and it's very loud, and you can feel the energy coming off stage. And when we finish that number, everybody always applauds it because they're enjoying it. It's a visual spectacle as well as, you know, a pleasure for the ears.
It has received amazing reviews.
Oh, brilliant reviews, yeah.
And the other thing was about mixed marriages. That's kind of covered in there as well. Quite a controversial issue. And when you were reading the script to begin with, did you think, oh God, what kind of reviews is this going to receive? Were you quite worried to begin with?
Yeah. You know, when I read what the script had in it, I thought, this is quite. You're touching on you're going to some dodgy ground here, right?
Yeah.
Asians don't talk about this kind of stuff, even though it happens.
Yeah.
It happens in our society, but we never talk about it. It's not family conversation in every house, you know, it's kind of shunned upon.
Yeah.
But I suppose, you know, it's done in a very nice and light-hearted way. You know, and at the end, people do understand the message, and they don't mind it so much. Nobody seems to mind it. I think everyone, because it's happening more and more in our society, I think people are beginning to accept it a lot more. And it's a musical, so it's not really real. But they do accept it. You know, at the end of the musical, where myself and my wife and my so-called black son, when we all come together, it's a very nice moment. It's a very nice moment, and it gets a fantastic applause and a great cheer. You know, which is, I suppose, for the writer, it's quite redeeming, really, in that sense that. Yeah, people are getting my story and understanding it, you know, and it shows that as a society, as Asians, we're progressing as well. Our minds are becoming broader, you know, and we're accepting all these kind of scenarios.
Yeah, that's true. And will you be doing any more acting in the future?
I think I probably will be. Yeah, I will be involved in another musical, which is being written now at the moment. It's going to take a few years to develop, obviously, as did Britains Got Bhangra. It's been touring for the last 2 years, but I've been involved with it for about 3 years before that, so I've been involved in that project for a good 5 years or so. Because it takes a lot of pre-development as well, you know, a lot of stuff has to go on, a lot of writing and tweaking, a lot of composing, and a lot of thought into who the actors are going to be, who you're going to use, and what kind of look you're going to give it, or the production side of things. So yeah, it's a big thing, but yeah, I will be definitely doing more acting and be involved.
And you're not only a singer and an actor, but you've also been a judge on Britains Superstar. So what kind of advice do you give to young people who are aspiring singers and actors?
My advice is always, right, learn your craft properly. You know, if you want to be a singer, or you want to be a musician, if you want to be a dancer, whatever you want to be, even if you want to be a DJ, right, you've got to learn what you're doing properly. You know, take some lessons. You can find teachers. There's loads of teachers all over the place now. There's academies that are opening up that teach Asian music. You can go to any academy and learn English music, but learn it properly and put a lot of time into practice and you know into rehearsing, because that's what makes you perfect. Yeah, you can't just take 2 lessons and then walk into a studio and start singing a song, because you're going to get slated, right? You've got to spend at least a couple of years learning your craft properly and do it the right way, and then when you come, you know, you stand a chance of making a mark. Because if you just come straight out of the bathroom and straight onto a stage, right? You're really not going to do it. And you know, you may have seen some of the contestants that used to take part in the competition. Some of them were diabolical, really, you know, and they've got guts to come on TV. But you know, you can't really give them a singing contract. You know what I mean?
And so all the best to you with your future endeavours, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you.
आजा सोनिए मेरा दिल नहीं लगदा वा आजा सोनिए मेरा दिल नहीं लगदा वा दिल विच
विच वस गया तेरा ही प्यार बस तेरा हाँ मैं तेरा हाँ मैं तेरा हाँ दिल विच वस गया तेरा ही प्यार बस तेरा हाँ मैं तेरा हाँ मैं तेरा हाँ. Hi, I'm Shin from DCS and you're watching Anila Dhami's interviews. Don't touch that dial.